Have you ever felt like the nicer you are, the faster they lose interest? Like the more you care, the more they disappear. You text first, you plan the date, you wait, and still, they pull away like you were never enough to begin with. And the worst part, you don't even know what you did wrong. You start asking yourself, was I too eager, too honest, too available? You begin to wonder if being a good man is actually a disadvantage. But what if the truth is this? Attraction doesn't reward effort, it rewards power. And not the kind of power that comes from money or muscles, but the kind that comes from knowing who you are and refusing to chase what won't choose you. There's a moment in every man's life when he looks in the mirror and thinks, I'm done begging for breadcrumbs. If that moment brought you here, stay. Because what you're about to hear might not just shift how women see you, it might shift how you see yourself. There's a reason you keep getting overlooked. And once you see it, you won't unsee it. Thank you for being here, and I hope you stay until the very end. Ethan always thought he was doing it right. He'd open doors, text good morning, compliment her thoughtfully, be honest, be available. And yet, it always ended the same. She would fade away slowly, until one day she just stopped replying. At first, he thought maybe she was just busy. Then maybe she wasn't ready. Then maybe he wasn't enough. He'd sit on the edge of his bed, staring at the screen, wondering if he should send another message, just one more, just to be sure. But deep down, he already knew she wasn't coming back. The irony, he wasn't ghosted after arguments or bad behavior. He was ghosted after being his most open, generous self. And over time, that hurt more than rejection. Because it didn't make sense. Why would being kind, being real, make someone lose interest? It felt like living in a world with rules no one explained, where effort pushed them away and distance drew them in. Ethan started noticing the pattern, not just in his life but everywhere around him. He saw guys who barely tried getting all the attention, while those who poured their hearts out were left unread. He saw confidence win over kindness, indifference over investment. And it shook something in him. He wasn't bitter, he was tired, tired of chasing, tired of guessing, tired of feeling like love was a prize you had to beg for. And in that exhaustion came a quiet voice inside. What if I've been playing the wrong game? What if I've been taught to seek approval instead of building presence? What if the answer isn't to try harder, but to try differently? The thought lingered. It followed him to work, to the gym, to late nights staring at the ceiling, until it wasn't just a thought. It became a question he couldn't ignore. What if I stopped chasing and started becoming? That question didn't give him peace, but it gave him something else, a reason to begin. Because sometimes, when life doesn't give you answers, it gives you silence. And in that silence, you hear your first real question. It happened on a Sunday. Ethan had just made her favorite coffee, oat milk. One sugar, the little details he remembered because he cared. He walked into the cafe early, nervous, hopeful this was supposed to be their try again moment. She never showed up. No message, no explanation. Just the slow ache of an unanswered silence that grew louder with every passing minute. He waited 47 minutes before leaving. That walk home felt longer than it should have. He didn't cry, he didn't scream. But something cracked inside quietly. He got home, threw his phone on the couch and stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours. And then, like some cruel joke, he opened Instagram. She was at a rooftop bar, smiling, laughing, holding someone else's hand. Not even 24 hours later, that's when it hit him, not the betrayal, not the disappointment, the realization that he had made her the center of his world, while he was just a convenient option in hers. He didn't eat that night, didn't speak to anyone for days. And somewhere in that silence, he started scrolling through old texts, trying to pinpoint the moment he lost her. Was it when he said too much, or when he cared too fast? Or maybe it was when he put her on a pedestal she never asked for. The self-blame was heavy. He replayed every conversation in his mind, every good morning text, every over-explained message, every time he said it's okay when it wasn't. But beneath that guilt, another feeling began to rise, anger, not towards her, but towards himself for abandoning his own boundaries, for silencing his gut just to seem chill, for mistaking attention for affection, and for giving so much to someone who didn't even value the moment. It wasn't a dramatic breakdown, no yelling, No smashed glasses, no long rants to friends, just one quiet night alone in his apartment. When Ethan finally whispered the words out loud, "I don't want to live like this anymore." That was the real heartbreak, not losing her, but realizing how much of himself he gave away for nothing. And once that truth settled in, something else surfaced, a question. If I could fall this far from trying so hard, what would happen if I stopped trying to be chosen and started choosing myself? If you've ever been there, if you've ever sat in silence wondering what you did wrong, you're not weak, you're not broken. You were just never taught the rules. And that moment, right there, could be the beginning of something you never saw coming. Ethan didn't go looking for answers. He wasn't scrolling advice videos. He wasn't reading self-help books. He just needed to get out of his apartment. So he ended up at a used bookstore downtown, dusty shelves, quiet jazz playing overhead. The kind of place that made you feel like time slowed down. He wasn't looking for anything until his eyes landed on a worn-out hardcover. The title read, "The Art of Not Chasing." Curious, he pulled it out. The book was old, underlined, notes in the margins. He flipped to a random page and read. "Stop asking why she pulled away. Start asking why you gave her the power to." He froze. It was like the words reached into his chest and touched something no one else had dared to name. He kept reading. "Love is not earned by proving your worth. It's attracted when you remember it." He didn't realize someone was watching. A man, maybe mid-40s, wearing a leather jacket, leaned on the next shelf with a slight grin. "That one hits hard, huh?" the man said. Ethan nodded, unsure how to respond. The man looked at him, calm, direct. "You're not broken," he said. "You're just playing a game you were never taught the rules to." Ethan blinked. "What game?" The man pointed to the book. "That one, the game of masculine energy, presence, value. You've been taught to please, to chase, to over-explain. That's not power, that's permission-seeking." Ethan tried to laugh it off. "So what? Just ignore women." "Go cold," the man shook his head. "No, be warm, be kind, but never be owned." He leaned closer, voice lower now. "You're not here to be chosen, you're here to remember you already are the prize." And just like that, he walked away. Ethan stood there, book still in hand, mind spinning. It wasn't just what the man said, it was how he said it, calm, no bitterness, no ego, just truth. That night, Ethan didn't go back to Instagram. He didn't text anyone. He sat in his apartment, that book in his lap, and wrote one sentence in his journal. "I am not chasing anymore." The words looked strange at first, unfamiliar, a little uncomfortable, but somehow they felt like home. And in that small moment something shifted, not everything, but just enough. Because sometimes the first step toward becoming who you're meant to be is hearing from someone who already walked that road and lived to tell you it's real. It started with a promise. 1 week, no chasing, no checking her profile, no late-night texts hoping for validation, just silence, not the kind that punishes, the kind that reclaims. Ethan wrote it on a sticky note and put it on his bathroom mirror. 7 days, just me. The first day was easy, he felt powerful, clear. By day 2, the itch started, the reflex to check if she'd viewed his story, the habit of rereading old texts to look for hope. But he didn't cave. Instead, he did something he hadn't done in months. He went for a walk without his phone. He noticed things, the way sunlight hit the leaves, the sound of kids laughing in the park. He felt present. And in that space, he asked himself a question he never had the courage to ask before. What if I'm not hard to love? I've just been offering myself to people who can't hold love. That one hit deep. He kept walking. Each day, he reclaimed a piece of himself. Day 3, he went back to the gym. Not just to look good, but to feel strong again. Day 4, he cooked a real meal instead of takeout. Day 5, he read a chapter out loud, just to hear the sound of his own voice again. He wasn't healing for her. He was remembering him. The Ethan who didn't second-guess every word. The Ethan who used to laugh deeply without waiting for permission. The Ethan who didn't edit his light to make someone else comfortable. By day 6, something unexpected happened. She texted. A simple, "Hey, how have you been?" His heart jumped just for a second, but then something inside smiled, not because she reached out, but because for the first time he didn't feel pulled to reply, not out of anger, not out of ego, just clarity. He realized her message didn't define his value. His silence already did. Day 7, he sat with his journal and wrote, "I'm not withholding love. I'm just no longer negotiating my peace for attention." And that right there was the moment he crossed the line between the boy who begged and the man who built. If this part of the journey touched something in you, if you've ever felt like reclaiming yourself meant losing them, leave a small reminder for yourself below, a comment, a word, a sentence that says, "I'm done chasing, I'm choosing me." Because sometimes the loudest transformation is the one that happens when no one's watching. Ethan didn't expect results. He wasn't trying to become some master of attraction. He just wanted peace. But something shifted. The first thing he noticed, people started responding differently. Not just women, everyone. He spoke less, listened more, moved slower, and suddenly, his presence started filling the room in ways his words never could. At a friend's dinner party, he met someone. Her name was Maya, smart, direct, beautiful in a way that wasn't trying. They talked casually. He didn't try to impress, didn't overshare, just asked questions, observed. When she laughed, he didn't reach for a compliment. He just smiled, genuine, grounded. At the end of the night, she said something that stuck with him. "You have this calm, you're not trying to be liked, you're just you." That night, Ethan walked home thinking, maybe that bookstore stranger was right. Power isn't loud, it's still. He started applying the 5 sovereign rules one at a time. Rule 1, build value, let her chase. He stopped over-explaining. If someone canceled plans, he didn't argue or double text. He simply moved on. Rule 2, stay mysterious, keep some space. He didn't flood conversations with his life story. He let things unfold slowly, like chapters in a book. Rule 3, stay calm, stay in control. Even when Maya took longer to reply, he didn't spiral. He had things to do, a gym session, a writing habit, a life. Rule 4, know your limits, expect respect. When someone joked too far, he didn't fake laugh. He looked them in the eye and said, "That's not cool." Calm, direct. Rule 5, stay sovereign, protect your mission. When Maya asked to meet up on the same day, he had a creative deadline. He didn't drop it. He said, "Let's do tomorrow instead." And here's the twist, she respected it. She didn't flake, she didn't fade. She smiled and said, "I like that you have boundaries." They went out the next evening. It wasn't perfect. He stumbled over a story, forgot the name of a movie, laughed a little too hard at a bad joke, but he wasn't performing, and she felt that. Midway through dinner, she leaned in and said, "You're different." He didn't respond right away. Just took a sip of water and said, "I'm finally remembering who I was before I forgot." The rest of the night flowed, no games, no guessing, just 2 people meeting honestly. And the next morning she texted first, "Thanks for last night, I felt really safe with you." Ethan looked at the message, then at the sticky note still on his mirror, "Just me." And for the first time in a long time, he smiled, not because someone liked him, but because he liked the man who showed up. Progress can be deceiving. It feels like momentum, like victory. But underneath, old patterns wait patiently. Ethan had been doing well, focused, clear, calm. But when Maya didn't reply for a full day, something shifted. At first, he told himself it was fine, she's probably busy. But by evening, doubt crept in. He stared at the screen, no new messages. He checked her social media. She had posted something, smiling, carefree, not with another guy, just her. But that didn't matter. His mind spiraled. What if she's losing interest? What if I did something wrong? And just like that, he broke his rule. He sent a second message. Then another, short, polite, casual on the outside. But inside, panic. He kept checking every 10 minutes. No reply. He couldn't sleep. The next morning, still nothing. By noon, his stomach twisted, so he called her, straight to voicemail. That night, she finally replied, "Sorry, crazy week. Hope you're good." No warmth, no follow-up. No mention of meeting again, just cold space. Ethan sat with the message, and something in him collapsed, not because of her, because of what he did. He didn't lose her that night. He lost the man he was becoming, the man who moved with self-respect, the man who wasn't addicted to response, the man who built his life, not waited for permission to live it. He turned off his phone and stared at the ceiling. The same ceiling he looked at weeks ago when the silence first broke him. But this time, the silence wasn't hers. It was his own voice asking, "Why did you go back?" He wanted to justify it, say it was just one slip, but he knew better. This wasn't about her. It was about his hunger to be chosen, still hiding in the shadows. That night, he didn't journal, didn't meditate. He just sat in the discomfort, let it ache, let it teach. Because growth isn't a straight line. It's a spiral, each turn bringing you back to the same place with new eyes. He whispered quietly to himself, "You still have work to do." And that was enough not to fix it but to begin again with less illusion and more truth. Because the fall doesn't define you, how you rise next does. It was 2:17 a.m. Ethan sat on his floor, back against the wall, phone turned off, the room dim and quiet. No music, no distraction, just silence and a pen in his hand. The journal lay open in front of him. He hadn't touched it in days. He stared at the blank page, then began to write, not about her, not about love, about him. "I miss who I was before I needed to be needed," he wrote, and the words kept coming, not polished, not poetic, just honest. "I've been outsourcing my worth to responses. I chase because I fear stillness. I say yes when I want to say no. I'm tired of earning affection by abandoning myself." He didn't cry. He didn't flinch, he just wrote, each sentence a piece of truth he had hidden beneath charm and effort and smiles that weren't real. At some point he paused, looked at the page, and whispered, "I'm not here to be chosen, I am the one who chooses." That sentence hit differently. It didn't feel like confidence, it felt like coming home. He remembered something the stranger in the bookstore had said. "You're not broken, you just forgot your power." Ethan closed the journal, stood up, walked to the mirror, and saw himself, not the man trying to impress, but the one who remained when all the pretending stopped. That week, he did something radical. He unplugged for 3 days, no social media, no texting, no noise. He woke up early, ran without music, drank his coffee in silence, cleaned his apartment, reorganized his space. But more importantly, he listened to his own thoughts, to the pain he'd been distracting himself from, to the younger version of him who just wanted to be accepted so badly he'd sacrifice anything to feel wanted. And Ethan didn't judge that version. He just sat with him like a brother and said, "You're safe now, I've got you." It wasn't magic, but it was enough. By day 4, he picked up his phone, no rush, no urge, just stillness. Maya had messaged again. "Hey, been thinking about you, want to talk." He didn't smile, didn't feel adrenaline, just calm. He typed, "Thanks. I've been spending time with myself. I'm open to talk, just not tonight." Then he put the phone down and made dinner, not to prove anything, not to win, just because he was hungry for food, for peace, for himself. And in that moment, for the first time in years, Ethan felt whole. Ethan didn't return to the world with a speech. He returned with a posture. There was no announcement, no dramatic reintroduction, just quiet action. He started treating his mornings like a ceremony. Phone off until after sunrise. He read, he wrote, he moved, no longer to impress, but to anchor. People noticed. At work, he stopped apologizing before sharing ideas. He spoke with clarity, paused when needed, let silence hold weight. During meetings, others deferred to him. Not because he demanded it, but because his energy no longer sought approval. He became grounded. At the gym, his focus changed. He wasn't chasing a look. He was rebuilding integrity, set by set, rep by rep. Each movement a reminder. I keep promises to myself now. Even the way he walked shifted, less rush, more presence. He didn't flinch when women made eye contact. He didn't oversmile. He simply nodded with a calm that said, "I see you, but I see me first." And slowly, the world mirrored back a different response. A barista who used to ignore him now remembered his order. A coworker who talked over him began to listen. An ex messaged him out of nowhere just to say hi. But he didn't chase any of it. He appreciated it and then returned to his focus, his routine, his projects, his breath. When Maya reached out again, they met for coffee. She noticed something. "You feel different," she said. Ethan smiled. "I stopped outsourcing my self-worth," he said. They talked for an hour, not about us, about life, books, music, philosophy. And when she asked if he was seeing anyone, he didn't dodge. "I'm dating myself right now," he said with a grin. She laughed, not offended, not confused, just curious. The date ended with a hug, no promises, no expectations, just clarity. Ethan walked home alone, but it didn't feel empty, it felt full. He stopped needing connection to feel connected, stopped using attention as oxygen. He had become sovereign. And that word, so often thrown around, now had meaning. It wasn't about control, it was about presence. He didn't ask to be respected. He lived in a way that left no room for disrespect. And people adjusted, not because he demanded it, but because he embodied it. That's what power looks like, not louder, but deeper, not colder, just centered. And that kind of man, he doesn't ask for permission to exist. He simply does. Love came back, but not the way Ethan expected. It didn't rush in like a movie scene. It arrived slowly, quietly, like morning light slipping through a curtain. There was someone new. Her name was Lee. They met at a bookstore. Same aisle where he once found that worn-out hardcover. But this time he wasn't looking for answers. He was just living. She reached for the same title, their hands touched. They laughed, simple, unplanned. They started talking. Not deep, not fast, just human. Ethan didn't try to impress. He didn't rehearse responses in his mind. He asked questions, shared thoughts, paused when silence came. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't fear that silence. He trusted it. They went for coffee a week later, then dinner, no games, no masks, just presence. Lee was different, not because she was more beautiful, not because she texted more, but because Ethan wasn't seeking. He was offering, not to be filled, but to connect from overflow. He didn't flinch when she teased him, didn't panic when she took hours to reply. He had a life, a rhythm, a mission. She noticed. "You don't chase things, do you?" she asked one night. He smiled. "I used to. Now I just invite what aligns." They didn't fall in love in a whirlwind. They grew into something rooted. He didn't lose himself. He didn't compromise his routines. And she didn't want him to. She respected his space. And in turn, Ethan gave more than he ever had, not because he had to, because he chose to. They didn't talk about forever. They talked about today, and that was enough. There were moments, soft hands, shared glances, silent car rides filled with warmth. Moments where Ethan would look over and think, this is what it feels like to love without losing. Because now he knew love isn't about being chosen. It's about being seen and staying yourself when you are. And that kind of connection doesn't burn out. It grows, quiet, steady, strong, like the man who built it. Ethan never planned to teach anyone anything. He didn't set out to become some example. He just got tired of betraying himself. Tired of shrinking to fit spaces that never honored him. Tired of asking to be seen. So he stopped asking and started becoming. The journey wasn't clean. There were setbacks, doubts, nights that felt empty. But he kept showing up, to the journal, to the gym, to the quiet. And in those quiet moments, he became someone else. No, not someone else. He became someone true. The man who used to wait by the phone now moves at his own pace. The man who used to rehearse texts now speaks from center. The man who used to beg for love now lives in such a way that love arrives without force. And maybe that's the real shift, not becoming colder, but becoming so rooted in who you are that you can't be shaken by who leaves. Ethan doesn't chase, he invites. He doesn't prove, he lives. And the world responds accordingly. That's what it means to be the prize, not flashy, not arrogant, just sovereign. He walks into rooms without seeking validation, because he brings his own. He builds, leads, listens. He holds his standards gently but firmly. And when love enters his life now, it's not a rescue mission, it's a resonance, a reflection of what he already carries. If you've made it here, maybe part of this story was yours too. Maybe you've chased when you should have walked away, overgiven, overthought, over-apologized. Maybe you've stared at your phone, hoping they'd see your worth, when deep down you weren't seeing it yourself. And maybe, just maybe, this is your moment to stop performing, to start remembering. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose yourself first, and live in a way that makes others feel lucky to be chosen by you. So here's what I'll leave you with: be the prize, not because it sounds good, but because when you stop chasing and start becoming, you don't just get love, you get freedom. If any part of this story felt like your own, drop a line below. Say, "I'm choosing me." Let it be your first step, quiet, powerful, unshakable. And if you ever forget again, come back here, not for advice, just to remember who you already are.